Hey, how's it going? My name is Spencer Roth, also known as Juice and Esteban, actually. And today I'll be presenting on Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. But before we start that, is that I'd just take some time, kind of explain my history with the game. I've been playing Smash in general since, oh god, it must have been at least a decade and a half when I started playing Melee. But I didn't play the game too seriously until Smash 4, in which I started playing that around in 2015, played that game pretty seriously, and I'm continuing with that to this day, playing Smash Ultimate competitively at Miami as well as around Ohio and maybe in other states to come. So yeah, let's get right into it. So what is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate? I imagine if you're watching this video, you probably kind of know the deal about Smash. It's a fighting game, kind of, but you're supposed to knock your opponent off the stage. You got all these cool characters. You got Mario, Yoshi, the works from Nintendo, among other characters. And, yeah. So, who makes Smash Bros. Ultimate? I think everyone knows that Nintendo makes it, but the actual guys behind the scenes, Bandai Namco has actually been working on the three most recent entries, that being Smash Ultimate, Smash for Wii U, as well as Smash for 3DS, and Sora Limited, led by Masahiro Sakurai, aka the grandfather of Smash Bros. As we know it, obviously put his hand in the mix for Smash Ultimate. So yeah, a little bit more about Nintendo, obviously this legendary gaming franchise, overall, when you take a look at their business practices, they tend to function a little bit differently when you compare them to, say, PlayStation or Xbox. A lot of the time, Nintendo kind of focuses on doing their own thing, right? So, for example, I laid out here the motion controls for the Wii, which was a successful one. Otherwise, you can talk about what happened with the Wii U with the kind of the tablet thing, which most people would argue isn't as successful. But yeah, the important takeaway is that Nintendo kind of likes to do things their own way, right? So anyway, who plays Smash Ultimate? As of, March 31st, 2019, it's the best selling fighting game of all time, which actually beats out the amount of Wii U's sold. However, a lot of the people who bought the game, and I think this is true for Smash games in general, don't play the game competitively, don't go to tournaments, but they enjoy playing the game casually with items, among other single-player elements, which makes sense. At the end of the day, I play Smash competitively, but I understand it's a fighting game. I imagine that a lot of other players in the community get that as well. But if you want to take it to the next level and play a little bit more competitively, you have a variety of options, both online and offline, as there are a lot of communities on Discord, for example, that run tournaments, and there's a lot of communities throughout the United States, know for a fact, but I imagine all across the world that have their own tournaments. And as you can see in the top right, that is Miami University's own Smash Ball, which we held, I believe, in March. At the top level, we see players trying to live out full careers dedicated to Smash, right? And we see this in Melee as well, but in both games, these players can play for ridiculous hours on end, oftentimes going to at least 12 hours. However, some pros, and I included a picture of Zero on the bottom, have decided that Zero's a little bit of a special case in which he was very successful in the previous entry in the Smash franchise, that being Smash Bros. For Wii U, and so he's decided to, instead of continue his competitive dominance, he's decided to instead focus more on content creation and streaming and videos on YouTube in particular. So I also want to take this time to take a look at one particular player in the competitive scene, a guy by the name of Void. Void's been a pretty dominant player in the scene. As you can see, he's had some pretty solid placements at particularly Genesis 6 and Frostbite this year. But, and he mains Pichu, who's considered to be one of the better characters in the game, which is especially interesting because Pichu wasn't exactly looked upon too highly as he does damage to himself with his moves. But yeah, I mean, Void's a pretty well-liked player in the Smash community. He's a pretty good way to look at Smash players in general, kind of like as a guy you should look at as like a basic standpoint, at least at the top level. Yeah, so I kind of wanted to get into the relationship between Nintendo and the competitive community, and I'm not gonna lie, it's been kind of rough. Nintendo has never really supported their the competitive community for Smash in any game to all that great lengths. And so most recently with Smash Ultimate, Nintendo decided to host the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate North America Open, which featured a lot of rules that the general competitive community didn't really support too much. In addition, it was held online, which a lot of players really didn't like. They prefer more offline tournaments. And when Nintendo was asked about why they disagree with the competitive community so much, a lot of the time they respond with they think that it's more profitable for them if they have this more casual rule set, right? Which makes sense. However, it is disappointing, obviously, for many competitive players, and I'll be the first to admit, including myself. So yeah, the teams. Honestly, it's kind of hard to describe the various teams that participate in the Smash community, just because there's so many levels of Smash. Whether you want to look at the level we have here at Miami, where we have the Miami varsity team, or you want to look at the top level, where you see teams like Panda Gaming, as you see here, Energy, SKT Telecom, T1 recently signed Anti, so you see that picture of him on the bottom right, or you see teams at the middle levels like Team Goth Girls, who I believe is based in Dayton. In addition, these teams kind of have a little bit of a different role when you compare them to teams in, say League of Legends, for example, where they actually compete against other teams. A lot of the time, these teams will kind of like function more as sponsors rather than actual teams themselves. And so I included the example here of possibly TSM Leffen and TSM Tweak competing against each other, even though they play on the same team. Excuse me. Yeah, and so I mentioned them before, but Panda Global, I think, has a pretty particular role because in addition to having their own players between ESAM, Mars, Cosmos, and I imagine there's more players that I'm forgetting about, they also maintain the PGR, or the Panda Global rankings, which most players in the community probably believe that the PGR is probably the best ranking system out there right now, and as you can see to the right, that was the final PGR for Smash 4, or excuse me, Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS. And so, although we do not currently have a PGR for Smash Ultimate because the game's relatively new, a lot of players are looking forward to it once it comes out in the relatively near future. So yeah, similar to the teams, a lot of the organizations exist on various levels. So you have groups like All Mid who help support tournaments here in the Midwest. At the same time, however, you have the group sponsoring EVO, which many people in the Smash community would probably argue is the biggest Smash tournament. And all these groups participate at various levels. In addition, a lot of organizations produce content to help amateur players get better at the game. So, for example, off the top of my head, Game 5 Smash is a pretty good example in which they both make videos for players as well as give out lessons, right? The fans, a lot of the fans of Smash are the players themselves, right? So, for example, I am a fan of the top level, but I also like participating at my more local scene, right? Because oftentimes I will be eliminated in these first couple rounds, and I want to see what these pro players, how they play, what they're thinking, talk to them, stuff like that. In addition, I understand that there's also a pretty large audience of people who just watch the tournaments for the sake of it, because it's fun, and I get that. I have fun watching Smash as well. So yeah, considering influencers, It's an interesting topic because you look at a lot of games such as, for example, let's take League of Legends, for example. And they have people all the time that come from outside the scene who come in, right? And so, for example, Gordon Hayward, the small forward for the Boston Celtics, he's a pretty big advocate for League of Legends. I know they featured him in a commercial a couple months back. But a lot of the influencers from the Smash community are people who grew up playing Smash, and they kind of developed because the Smash community made them popular. And so, to the right, you can see Introspective's profile picture, as well as AlphaRad and Omni's profile pictures, who are all three content creators for the Smash Ultimate community, as well as, to an extent, the Melee community, who kind of became popular because of the popularity in Smash in general. In terms of the secret sauce, I think there's a lot of things that should be considered. The most notably is probably the fact that there's so many characters in the game. I think that, so Smash Ultimate has 75 characters, right? And obviously in the first game, it only consisted of 12 characters. You know, you had Mario, Link, Kirby, yada yada yada. But slowly but surely, this roster became bigger, and what was 12 became 25, and then 36, and then it grew into the point where we're currently at 75, with 4 more DLC characters coming in 2020. It's also worth noting that a lot of the characters that have been added more recently, especially since Brawl, are third-party characters, right? And so, I remember, for example, I personally was extremely excited when Sonic the Hedgehog was announced for the game. And, especially more recently, oh my god, I had a good time when, Joker from Persona 5 was announced this past December. But yeah, I definitely think one of the greatest selling points for Smash nowadays is that we're at a point where no one knows who the next character could be that's added, because there really doesn't seem to be any more limits, right? In the past, we thought that it was only going to be Nintendo characters. That was wrong when Snake and Sonic were released, right? We then thought it was going to be only characters who have been on Nintendo consoles, right? But that was proven wrong, too, when we saw Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy VII, a PlayStation exclusive game, released onto Smash 4. And there's still some barriers that we could see being broken. For example, we've never seen an indie game character in Smash. We've never seen a Western character, so a character from a Western developer, appear in Smash. But personally speaking, I believe those are barriers that I think we will be seeing broken, within these next 4 DLC characters. So yeah, that's basically it. If you have any further questions, feel free to contact me. Particularly on my Twitter, at Juice or Esteban, and thank you very much for checking the video out. Yeah.